So yesterday, we talked about was Marvel Comics' problem Marvel Comics' fault? And that was via The Atlantic in a piece that was pretty comprehensive, but did not touch on any of the social justice warrior aspects of Marvel's writing or their talent picks as of late. Today, as promised, we're going to get into Nick Spencer's responses telling us why the article was wrong. So here we go. I actually was following Nick Spencer's Twitter rant when he got into this, and man, before I could even jump on that, bleedingcool.com beat me to the punch, which saved me the trouble of compiling all the tweets together. So we will use this article. The title of this article is Marvel-splaining. Nick Spencer tells us why never-ending relaunches are actually a good thing. Yeah, can't wait to dive into this one with you guys. Alright, man, where to even start? Let's see. So I'll quote Bleeding Cool here. Marvel seems to relaunch titles more and more these days, and the sales of individual titles continue to decline. But Spencer sees relaunches not as a band-aid that fails to fix the underlying cause of low sales, but as a heroic effort on the part of Marvel to keep poor creators' failing series alive. There doesn't seem to be any love lost between Bleeding Cool and Marvel. I browsed through their website, and yeah, there's a few articles where they're a little bit more than critical of Marvel Comics. So here is Nick Spencer's first tweet. Seasonal relaunches get flack, but as a writer I always appreciated sales and editorial finding a way to keep my story alive. If a book launches and after a year's attrition it's hovering at a low number, there are two options really, kill it or relaunch it. Most creators are going to take option B every time. Now, Bleeding Cool makes a good point here, saying, is there not an option C? It just has to be A or B. Like, literally, kill it or relaunch it. That's the only two options that they have to pick from. And there's all kind of reasons why that's wrong, but we'll get into that here in a second. Let's carry on with Mr. Spencer's illustrious tweets. This is not to say that there are no downsides or that you don't encounter diminishing returns, but usually the decision comes down to this. Next tweet. They have a story or a creative team they believe in, it doesn't have a big enough audience, and they are trying to expose more people to it. And you think, well, that seems like a fair argument, right? But then you give it a little bit of thought, and you think, there are actually, there are other ways of exposing a title, like advertising, spending $1 or $2 on the book and getting the word out there about it. Then of course, there's also that precious word of mouth that they were talking about in the Atlantic piece. Those two things, that's typically what businesses do. They'll advertise something, and they'll put it out there, and they'll have the people consider it. And then they'll, a few months will go by, and they'll remind people that it exists by more advertising. I mean, how often do you see advertisements about McDonald's? Who doesn't know McDonald's exists? But yet you see the ads continue to run because they want to remind people, hey, we're still here, come buy a cheap chicken nugget. Moving on. So number one, before I get into this next point, I want to say that I do appreciate an editorial team, a management team, sticking behind their creators. Like honestly, like a record label or an A&R people, they have a band and they really believe in this band and they have this feeling. Like, this is something special, and we need to push it until it catches on. We know it will. Bands like Aerosmith and U2 back in the day before corporations got so short-sighted, they would develop bands for years. I mean, they wouldn't sign them unless they saw long-term potential, and the stories are the same way. Comics are the same way. Characters are the same way. I mean, a lot of the titles, like X-Men, for instance, take that one. It got canceled. The sales weren't there. But when the right creator, I think in this case it was Chris Claremont, got involved, relaunched it, boof, there it went. I mean, it's still around today until, Marvel kills it again. Or take Daredevil, for instance, another good example. Daredevil, I don't know if you guys know this, it was canceled in the 90s. And Kevin Smith brought it back with an amazing story. Shortly after he stepped away and a couple of guys came in, but then Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev did some of the best work either one of them have ever done for a number of years on that story. But I digress. The point being, I can appreciate that they get behind it. But in this case, the motivations of why they're behind it, I think is suspect. Because they strike me as political. They strike me as this is something that this is like agenda driven, not creatively driven. At some point, you have to just admit that it's a dead horse, and no amount of beating it will get it to go any further. Also, the main point I want to make here is being supportive of a title does not involve trickery. It does not involve trying to trick your audience, and I'll get to that in a second. Let's carry on with Mr. Spencer. They make fun of Mr. Spencer for... Bleeding Cool says, Spencer took time to agree with a fan who agreed with him, showing great taste in people to agree with. This guy, the guy that tweets, says, I straight up don't understand the resistance to this approach. As a reader, I'd also like to see the stories I like survive. And then Nick Spencer responds, this is what I don't get either. I'd rather have the full story across a few launches than have it die early. Again, there's no resistance to honest efforts to keep a good title alive. But if it's a good title, would we need to be tricked with a new number one under a different name every time if it was all that good? At some point, you have to see that people are letting you know how much they care about something or how little. And at that point, you either press forward, taking the loss if you really believe in it and keep it going, or, even a lower return even. If it's profitable, barely, it's still profitable, because they quote-unquote believe in it, or they cut it loose. Sometimes things don't work out. And it sucks, and it really, I'm getting ahead of myself here. But the point is, do you need to trick your audience to strengthen a legitimately good story? I think no. No way in hell. It's one thing to have a title. Let's say you have Luke Cage, right? Let's say you have a miniseries, much like independent comics have done for decades, where they run the same title, but they run it in spurts. Miniseries. You can go all the way back to Dark Horse's Aliens, in the late 80s, where they ran a 6-issue arc. And then the next series was a 4-issue arc that was a direct sequel. And then in a 4-issue arc, another one, direct sequel, and they just kept that going. And what they did was they based each decision to run a book on the success of the last one. And you got to think, these guys, they are licensing this property, which means they have to pay for it every year. I mean, you see why they would do this touch and go system. So let's say Marvel, they own all these characters. They don't have any of that. They don't have any of that overhead and expense for these characters. They own them. So let's say you want to have a Luke Cage series, right? Have a 6-issue arc and title it something. Luke Cage is back, part 1 of 6, and then that's what you run. And if it's good, then you start with issue 7. And you say, I don't know, something. And you do a 6-issue run again. Now, I realize this is kind of standard fare. You don't even have to, you can still do the 1 through 6. You can do mini-series. You can do 3 series that are all kind of a tying together a story. But if you were to say, if you were to title Luke Cage something completely different, to trick the audience into thinking it's something completely different, and it's a continuation of the same story that they bailed out on in the first place, that's not honest business practices. That's them trying to keep a dead horse going. So moving on with Nick Spencer, for all the screaming about this, I don't think it's going anywhere because even the most successful line launches see serious attrition. Okay, in all fairness, that's true. And that's something that I would like to get into in a future video because I would like to know why this is. What has changed? Because I've seen this happen to numerous publishers. Big and small. Marvel, DC, I've seen it happen to Boom Comics, IDW, Dark Horse. I've seen that across the board where books just, by the time you get to issue 6, and God forbid 12, where has the readership gone? Because I've seen this happen on stories that I thought were really great. Obviously I'm biased because I thought they were really good, but You know, it seems to be a practice that is not just exclusive to Marvel. So I'm saying this in all fairness. So somebody responds to Nick Spencer on his Twitter account and says, it's not just articles. Talking about the Atlantic article. I've heard it from the fandom on Free Comic Book Day. Option B isn't working anymore. Talking about the relaunches, which is Trickery. Nick responds to this person, if that's the case, we're choosing canceled stories midstream over the inconvenience of volume changes, which is weird to me. It's weird unless you consider the fact that nobody likes being tricked and no one's interested in the stories. But getting to the problem of attrition, I'm still not sure what to do about that. I mean, it could be a cost issue. I actually definitely think it's a cost issue. And yeah, I think I want to do another video on this because this is something I would like to dig into with you guys and see what you think about this. Sometimes really good books are just badly timed too. I mean, that's an unfortunate reality for almost anything. Is just the right thing hits at the wrong time. And it's not discovered until, months or years later. And this is true for, movies, music, comic books, novels. I mean, you name it. I mean, how many times have you read a report on a movie and it says, it was a dud when it came out, but over the years a cult following developed. People discovered it. And frankly, it's not weird to cancel stories midstream if it's a bad story. And if you really believe in it, you don't have to. You keep it going. You don't have to change the titles. You don't have to fool people. I mean, I can't hammer that home enough. The Trickery does not need to be involved. So, after Nick Spencer gives his, this is what I don't get either. I'd rather have the full story across a few launches than have it die early. Again, if you like the story, sure, but doesn't involve Trickery. Tom Brevoort. That's Tom, Brevoort, graphics person. Put that name up there. I don't have a graphics person. Moving on. Apparently this is a Marvel executive. He was chiming in now. And he says, oh, I finally get to put a name to my Marvel exec character, I guess. It's a pining for a past that wasn't really quite as rosy as people want to remember it being, like longing for 3-network TV. I wish I had crickets chirping right now. I wish I could do a crickets chirping sound. But I can't. Because that's an idiotic example. I mean, that's an idiotic metaphor. Like longing for 3-network TV? To have stories go through normally? I mean, to just be a title? To be a well-written title? What the hell does that even mean? It's a pining for a past that wasn't really quite as rosy as people remember, or as people want to remember it being. Come on. Well, excuse us. I was silly to think that we had a valuable point to make here. Because I thought I had legitimate feelings. I thought you guys might have had legitimate feelings too, but apparently not. It's just like us wanting 3-network TV. Because that's obviously much better. Of course, this is, as a reminder, Bleeding Cool goes completely unrelated, and we don't even know why we're bringing it up. The boorish behavior of Marvel staff toward readers on the internet was another reason cited by The Atlantic for Marvel's woes. But back to the topic at hand. Let's continue on. Nick Spencer. One more thing on this topic. Some of the sales analysis, he used quotes here, on this stuff has a major flaw in consideration. It goes like this. Book X launches at 70,000 and at the end of the year is at 25,000. Relaunches. First issue is 60,000, but by issue 3 is at 20,000. Relaunch failed, right? Well, maybe not. Because the publisher got an extra, let's say, 50,000 sales out of those first 2 issues all the same. And on the creative editorial side, that gave them 10 extra issues to finish their story. Now, I'm not sure Nick is aware that he just did this, but he gave away the Trickery. He gave away, in that little spurt of tweets, exactly how Marvel is fooling you and fooling their readership. Now, some of you guys may be aware of what they're doing, and you may be fine with it because you like the stories. That's cool. I mean, there's no criticism here. We're not talking about the stories themselves. We're talking about the business practice of Marvel. Because I'm not here to critique. I mean, art is subjective. Art taste is subjective. It is according to where you are, where you've been, what you like, who you are as a person. I mean, there's all things across the board. I can give you my 2 cents, and you can weigh your 2 cents against my 2 cents to figure out if you can, judge listening to my reviews or not. And, that's it, like, say, hey, this guy usually likes the same thing I like, so I can trust him when he says yada yada's good or yada yada's bad. Or yada yada's meh. But going back to it, though, why can't you run the same title in miniseries format? Give it a chance on its own. That should not have to involve tricking people. And it brings to mind that Relaunch failed, right? Okay, they tricked people with the number one thing and the new title. But you see, the titles keep failing. Okay? The story that you claim to support and want to keep going keeps failing. It keeps failing. People do not want it. This is not... Now, I think there are other variables at play here. Like I said earlier, I'd like to really do a breakdown of the full reason. Perhaps people are buying the first couple of issues to gauge it and then keep it in mind for a trade later. I've done that. I admit it. I don't have a lot of money to go out and buy a big stack of books. I wish I did, but I don't. So sometimes I will go buy first, issue 1 or issue 2, and if I think it's great, I'll buy the trade. I will support the creators. I will support the publishers for stuff that I really like. And I think that might play into it, but let's save that for the other video. I keep coming back to that because I'm like, yeah, I'm really, as I'm talking, I'm chewing on it in the back of my head. So let's go back to Nick Spencer one more time. As a line on a budget, that relaunch gave everyone involved a little breathing room, possibly. If 3 issues in, they're back, flipping the page, where they started. It may not be the best case, but it was still the best available option. No, not really. Going on. Not to say, again, that it works every time. If anything worked every time, they'd do it every time, I'm sure. The trap here, listen to this. The trap here is people think they're choosing between a 60-issue run or a 320 issue runs. In reality, you're usually just choosing between one truncated volume of 20 or 3 volumes in a full story. Latter should be preferred. How are they supposed to know this if you keep retitling it? I mean, you really, really think that your readership is stupid. He's breaking this thing down like none of us understand what is happening. We clearly get it. We don't want to read it. This is not complicated. And choosing between one truncated volume of 20 or 3 volumes in a full story. Now, yes, I prefer the full story if it's good. Geez, nobody wants their TV show canceled. Nobody wants their comic book canceled. But sometimes it sucks, Nick. Sometimes people don't want to read it, and they sure as hell don't want to be tricked, Nick. Ugh. Again, it should not involve trickery. Nickery? Oh, he's not done yet. Oh no, Nick's not done yet. Nick's a writer. He likes to put words on the page. So let's see what else Nick Spencer has. I think this stuff comes from a good place, by the way. He's talking about the fans here, them complaining about what's being done. This is where the condescension starts to get kind of thick. People think good work will be rewarded with sales and that millions more should read comics, but the reality is lots of good work in any field fails to find an audience, and getting media dollars is harder than ever. Okay, number 1, I'm going to give Nick this. We've said this before in this video already. That's true. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes a really good work just doesn't find its audience, and it takes time and effort to find your audience. Honestly, man, sometimes it's a sad, hard truth that not everyone makes it, and it does suck. Because I've said before in previous videos, I want to see everybody succeed. I want people to be successful. As far as media dollars, okay. Nick, are you unaware of who your parent company is? Who your company's parent company is? Media dollars are hard to come by. Really? Seriously? That to me is... Okay, for you guys that don't know, most corporate structures, each company has its own baseline budgets, which means that Disney could advertise in Marvel's books easily. And it would be like they were just advertising with Google or advertising in a magazine somewhere. I mean, it's the same thing. They would just write a check to Marvel and then have ads running Marvel. And they basically, it's not really an artificial prop because they're still trying to get this audience. So, I mean, media dollars. Not to mention that Marvel is the biggest comic company in the world. Media dollars are hard to come by. I mean, they are harder now, yeah. There's a lot more vying for those dollars. But you know what? Maybe in part of a restructure with Marvel, let's say like Spider-Man, for instance. Spider-Man, you have the sales. Well, the Spider-Man is licensing the Spider-Man image to a pillow company. You know, you got pillowcases and pillows and comforters and all that nonsense. I mean, put that money into the book. Stop taking it and put it somewhere else. Put it into the book. You know, because clearly the writers and the artists are still pushing this book, and the licenses are coming from the book still being popular, the character's popular. Put it into the book. Stop putting it wherever you're putting it. I mean, there are ways around this. Marvel, you're not Avatar Press or Oni. You're not Boom. You're not Dark Horse. You're not Tiny. You're huge. I mean, if you have a hard time filling up your books with ads from Nissan, then get a different ad team. Get a different sales team. So he goes on, and if you are a newer creator and your cancellation threshold book gets a relaunch, it means rent got paid for another 6 months. Matters. Yes. Yes, it does. But we're not buying books for charity, Nick. We're buying books for enjoyment. We love supporting the creators for the work. We love this. We love that when we buy a book, the creators are getting paid. The artists and the letterers and the colorists. I mean, we love that. We love that the publisher's getting paid to put this stuff out. But we're not in the habit of buying crap that we don't like to support somebody that we don't know. You know, it's not a thing. Sometimes some people need a career change. You know? Just saying. I want to see everybody succeed, but not everybody does. Not everybody's cut out for it. So Bleeding Cool says, to wrap things up, in one of his most impressive tricks yet, Spencer claimed that the reason Marvel can't take risks with books is because of fans scrutinizing sales numbers. He just got finished explaining to us, Marvel-splaining to us, how the whole damn thing works, and suddenly we're all geniuses, and this is the problem. It's a direct contradiction. Probably a direct correlation between audience fascination with financial success of works and publisher studios becoming more risk-averse. We basically now incentivize publishers to only put out the safest product from a sales perspective and ship it more frequently. Success! I honestly do not think the people who rail on this stuff realize that is exactly where this road leads. So now it's our fault that a corporation is choosing to publish only the most safe products. Y'all give me a second here. I'm not even going to cut this out. Oh, this dude. Okay. So what you're saying, Nick, let's start off here. Let me start over here. So you're saying that the correlation between audience fascination with financial success of works and publisher studios becoming more risk-averse. So it's okay if Marvel's losing money. That's fine. It's us knowing they're losing money that's the problem? If we all thought Miss Marvel was a gigantic success, it would just radically change what Marvel decided to do. They weren't making any more money, but hell, we didn't know about it, so it must be okay. Really? Really, Nick? That's like saying if we know the stats of an athlete, that he can't perform better. If we didn't know the stats, he'd be fine, but since we know his stats, he's not going to perform as well, he or she. Really, Nick? This is your logic now? Oh. So let's talk about what this really is. Going with another long one today. I'm sorry, guys. This gets me fired up. What this really is, guys, Marvel Comics is focused on short-term profits. Period. This is the problem. They relaunch with number ones and new titles not to keep a series going, not because they really believe in it, but because short-term bursts like this and a creative team that apparently can't reach out very far, it's a combination that requires them to constantly relaunch titles that are not good, that are not what people want. And to get those short-term profits in, they keep popping out these event storylines, and they popping out these number ones, and it's a joke. It's a joke. It's the same short-sighted corporate mentality that you see in corporations all around the world, comic book or no comic book. What can we get to please the shareholders, to get the profits in every quarter? What do we need to do to get this quarter's numbers up? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Make Captain America Nazi? Hell, let's do that. Make Magneto Nazi too? That's in the next quarter. Just do that. So a guy, literally named Kurt Abercrombie, wrote to Nick, and I don't know who this guy is, I think we as a community really need to support and buy the books we like. And definitely pre-order. This is the best thing we can do. And Nick says, it sounds trite to many, but really, this is the best thing to do. May not be exciting, but it works. Okay. We all know that's true, right? It's common sense. If you want to support something, buy it. Invest your treasure in it. Support the things that you love. I've always felt that way. I will continue to feel that way. I go out of my way to support anything and everything that I like. So I agree with that. But it's hardly the point of any of this that we talked about, is it? But, all right, guys, I know I'm stretching your patience with this video. Thank you for sticking with me for the 5 or 4 or 3 or 2 of you that are left. I really appreciate you hanging in there, and I really want to know your thoughts. As usual, comment down below. I read every comment, and I respond to the ones that I can. And, yeah, if you like this video, please hit like. And if you are new here, please subscribe. Hit the little bell feature because apparently YouTube needs double notification now. But, yeah, thank you for listening. I appreciate you. And we'll see what we can get into tomorrow. See you then.